question.
Okay, I will see it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nothing. Thank you for being here.
My condolences,
I'm glad.
John. And thank you for joining us. Okay, so I haven't updated the agenda for today. So sorry about that, but I think we have a good plan, right, Nick, with the value flows about token engineering, Consilience, library. Would you like to first give an update and maybe share the file with everyone so we can collect our thoughts and focus on what everyone contributes to token engineering Consilience library, and maybe we can take then 5 or 10 minutes to really go into the document again, the archipelago, and visit the islands, and really take some time to look around what everyone is contributing, also maybe reconnect what we want to contribute each. And then we could do this little value flow session. Nick has been going through that already and did not discuss it, but I was hoping that you would do us the honor. And yeah, I'll help try and facilitate. And basically, it's a co-creative process. Steph and Jean have been part of it. Matt, I think you were in one of those sessions. And I don't know, maybe for the others it will be new, but it is actually a pretty straightforward way. So don't worry, anyone. Is that a good recap? Nick, would you like to add, or anyone else, and then take over?
So, yeah, I'd say so. I shared the Figma file on the Omega channel, so you'll all be able to see it from there. I can also share my screen. Right here. So you said you wanted it to be focused on the library, so we'll be focusing in this area today, correct? Shebnem?
Sorry, I'm still trying to get my voice. Yes, so first of all, maybe just, I don't know if everyone had the chance to do the session with you, this one-on-one onboarding, to get the tour of the archipelago. I did self-onboarding, for example. It worked like a charm.
Yeah,
It was super cool to see all of the people's contributions. If you just zoom a little bit for the ones who weren't there, and if anyone wants to share or comment or give feedback about that part of the process, would be great. And then for today, let's zoom in and into the Consilience, but obviously we shall continue the value flows through the various initiatives and for the working group itself. That would be definitely a plan.
Yeah, sure. So what I did is I asked people to basically, here, we'll look at a more recent example because that's the old version. Okay, Unipuff, I hope you don't mind I'm using you as an example, but I had people basically share what motivates them to interact with Token Engineering Commons and with Omega, and basically share what drains them of energy to do an experience and what drains them of energy to, or what gives them energy to do or experience. And then based on that, they spent some time looking at the different initiatives and like how the whole map works together. For example, there's descriptions here, documents, we can chat about specific topics, there's to-do lists. And they were able to take a look at the sub initiatives as well related to the main one. and they can come up with their own initiatives. So, for example, we started a curation group for the Consilience library, and then they can connect their post-it answers to the initiative and rate out of 10 how much they estimate it will energize them. And over time, they can change the rating as well as they actually start working on it, so it can be like a more accurate representation of how much it energizes them. Yeah, the idea is to basically like encourage people to contribute in a way that energizes them and show them that they have complete freedom, I guess, in choosing how they contribute, and they have freedom to start initiatives as well. So we can come up with a diversity of strategies in solving the main problem, which is the Consilience library, like making it a success, making it, well, that's just one of the initiatives, but the main goal is to move token engineering forward and create safe, resilient systems. But the main focus of Omega are these main initiatives listed here. So we have the token engineering resilience library, the ethics participatory research, and then there's other initiatives that are emerging as well. Like, for example, focusing on regenerative workflow styles, and Satori D is also coming up with Imaginarium, and I wanted to do some focus on the onboarding as a way to kind of like dog food what we're creating everywhere else in the other initiatives too. So as part of like the work after the session, I'm sorry, by the way, for taking so much of your energy, but asking for a lot. I asked people to also kind of think about these questions up here, which are like, how can the library earn TEC tokens? How can the library mint TEC tokens? So like basically what kind of actions can people take that are minted? And how can the TEC tokens represent the value of the public goods instead of the common pool? And to also start thinking about how we can distribute the funds received for the library. So today we'll be doing, I guess, like a value flows session where we kind of come up with ideas on how that could all work. I'll share this doc as well in the Omega channel so you can all have access. And this is maybe where we can map out our ideas. I'm wondering if everyone had the chance to read about how to make stock and flow diagrams. I kind of included
So
a legend
that,
here.
yeah. So what we would need is actually the people's contributions
Okay.
and the cards. So either we make a copy of that island and yeah. Or 1 second, maybe if it's okay for you, just that we work underneath it,
Yeah.
and then you can separate it again in a sense. But it would be cool for people if you didn't have time, or if you want to refresh also, like who's contributing and so on, that that we can move between the players and their cards or their contributions, their motivations, as well as what they said they want to contribute to the T Consilience library. So and when we now take, let's take 10 good minutes,
Okay.
really go into the mood of token engineering Consilience library, and refresh again your contributions, look at other people's contributions, try to make connections. But number one ask will be about values. I always say, don't think about tokens yet. They'll come, don't worry. But first think about values, like these actions that you say, if I contribute that's going to give me energy, and so on. When you look at all of the contributions of the people, what values do you see this library to have? Okay. And what else could we? I don't want to overload. I think if we just collect the value stock. Yes, go ahead, please, Satori.
I was gonna say, I wanted to kind of put my little spin on things. I think all of this is in the workflow that we're doing, and the way we think about it and the way we talk about it is important. So the onboarding part is our self sorting that we're doing. Nick is kind of taking the initiative to help us to self sort ourselves and see where we fit in the bigger picture. And I think even participatory research feeds into the Consilience library. So like for my own self, I'm doing my own like research on like how we use words and all this kind of weird stuff that I like to do. And applying
Yeah.
it to the task at hand, which is the NFT Redux. And it's using my disembodied poetics to read the overculture's like narrative of what's happening right now, and we see there's like a real need for meaningful using of these tools, whether they're tokens, whether they're NFTs or whatever, meaningfulness. And so I think that goes into the value of like first we think of what it means to us
Exactly.
and what values that we
So,
can bring to this task. Yes.
fantastic. And basically we will then like really take 10 minutes, choose, uh, uh, reflect on the words or what you want, what is important. It doesn't have to be excessive, but maybe one or two values that are important to you that you see the library having. Just take 10 minutes. Also try to connect to the others, like because we had the sorting session, as I said, like try to see what the others are bringing in. Let's take this 10 minutes and then we will have a round and really everyone should have a chance to try and describe the value stock and value stocks that they see growing, the more type of actions and contributions they see coming from the people that put their heads into the ring or their cards onto the board. Okay, everyone has the link, and I will wake you up in 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, we'll leave you in peace. Okay?
So yeah, again, we're gonna be looking at what others have put in as energizing for them to contribute to the library, and then others can add more as well depending on their ideas of what they find valuable or what will energize them, and then we'll come up with value stocks based on that. That's what you said?
Yeah, just 10 minutes for everyone to reflect on what value they see accruing
Okay,
through
got it.
these what people put on the board already, and then we guide. Okay, see you or hear you back in 10 minutes. So we have 2 more minutes, and I'm gonna throw in actually something. Please have a think for 2 minutes about what is the purpose of token engineering Consilience library. What is the purpose of this library? 2 more minutes. Okay, perfect. So I would say let's have a round. I saw that a few people are super active already. Put things in cards. Maybe some of you just made some notes, or some of you will have additions when we make a round. And those people who shared, who wrote things down, share it in one round. And if there's something you do want to add, please, join the conversation. Okay, who wants to go first? And let's start with the purpose of the token engineering Consilience library. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Thank you, Matt.
So I wrote two things. One is create a comprehensive outlook of token engineering so people can DIY token engineering. So I believe the most important part of this library is that if you like to be a token engineer, you can go this library and understand diverse complexities of token engineering, not just through like Ponzinomics, this Ponzi scheme kind of thing, but having many layers of understanding like psychology, decision science, etc. Second is it's kind of fun, but create a knowledge space that is fun. So I wanted to create a space that we will to be having pleasure getting engaged with this library. So there's a lot of sources out there that you can read, but I would like to create a gamified version of a library that you can go and feel that you are engaging with a game or something like a product. So these two things are the most important part of token engineering Conscience library for me.
Thank you.
So I like
you can. Yes.
Sorry.
Pass it on. That's best.
Yeah, I would like to piggyback on that. I think fun is really important. You know, there's like things that I say, but I mean stuff by it. So like infinite game, if it's designed right, it feels a lot more like infinite play, and then you won't even know that if it's a game or play. And for that, it means, whatever it is that like motivates you to do stuff. For me, just thinking about this stuff energizes me. Thinking about combining different things that I've used. Like before I came in here, when I referred to my howling, I was like, how am I going to prove stuff that I already do? I was like, okay, let me see. Oh, I could do this. I could do that. Oh shit! My friends are actually just like creating based off of like our ideas. Like I don't even have to tell them. Like Eclipsing Binary wrote that thing on the JoyStream DAO about centering creators on their own, all on his own. Days when I start talking about my NFT Redux, Curry Hobo sends me his plan to fund his Plurk truck, which is like a food truck that's more of an artist like creative thing. It's just the way of we framing it. We're like we're doing stuff that doesn't have labels for it, but to be nice to people, we're gonna put these labels, and we always like try to like expand them to different things. That's all to say that this stuff is in itself energizing and engaging, and we should always bring that to the forefront of the table, because all of us here in different ways are here because we really like working on our skills and our crafts to the extent that we want to build and create in this space on any level of the stack that is. I mean, I could go on forever, but I'll stop myself.
No, thank you for
You
sharing.
want to pass it on?
I can share. It's A. Emiko.
Yes,
Hi.
please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I just wanted to say when I was reading everybody's comments and what they wanted to share, there was this huge sense of connection, and I thought that was really beautiful. That everyone wanted to connect, but also not only did they want to share their skill set, they were so open to learn. And I thought that's just such a beautiful balance of community right there when we're just starting from such a beautiful space of wanting that connection and wanting to share and grow. And so for me, that is a beautiful place where we could start this library from, like this openness that everyone's welcome and we want to get to know everybody and we want to learn from you, but we also have ideas and thoughts and comments to share. So that was what I took when I read that.
Thank you.
And I can pass it on to anybody else that feels open to share their comment.
I can go. Yeah. So I just wrote. First of all, I think this experiment or this exercise would be something really interesting into creating how libraries could look in the future. It doesn't matter if they have to do with token engineering or with any other field. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of reimagine what libraries are and how can we interact with them. So that's on one side. And then I also think that the purpose of this place could be to create a self-sustaining space of creation, collaboration for anyone interested in token engineering and all the fields it can relate to. And I think it's a good chance for this specifically self-sustaining part, because it's funny because usually libraries, like physical libraries or places of knowledge, are hard to maintain and to sustain. So I think token engineering and all of this innovation can make us find a really, really interesting way to make these places different and sustainable. That would be it.
Yeah. During one of yesterday when I was talking to Nick, that was one of the things that I brought up is like, this could be like going back and retrieving like the Library of Alexandria. Like it wasn't a stagnant place where you house like dead books. This is like a place where you research and you create and you have whole new schools of thoughts. And I think that's like the potential of this. That's how I'm viewing it. And you know, everything that we could bring to the table, especially with the new little tricks and stuff that we have to really see if we can make it sustainable. Piggybacking on what you said, because you know everything was, you know, libraries are now like, you know, public funding, and it's hard, and they're stagnant too, and they're good for the community, but like, you know, we need this in a more whole and rounded place, you know, especially to in this particular space.
So 2 things: don't think about token, don't think about sustainability. We're getting to a place when we figure out the value flows, right? And when we figure out the appropriate rewiring of those flows, if we see where the drains are, then the hawk says profit is like a dog barking to be let in. So that has a formula, meaning if you create value, this technology is able to capture value, especially if it is a digital only space. And with that, we can create sustainable digital economies. So that's our premise.
Yes, that's
and that's
a very
why.
good pointer.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm looking at these stickies, and I didn't do my flows or whatever, so I feel like I'm a stalker here, looking at everyone's inner working. So what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling here is that I see like the primordial needs and principles and emotions of the human beings that are gathered here. So I'm looking at, I want to play, create self-sustaining spaces of creation, collaboration, experiment, reflection. This is a knowledge space. So I really see this, if we come back to the Maslow's pyramid, I think that's not our reference, but it's like very related to. So we are creating a space that is full of these human values and human needs, really, and we're like enabling these values to have a different relationship with ourselves, with the world, and with everything we are trying to create. So really, it's like this interception space which is happening is the value. So we were thinking about this dark forest or this dark matter. So I see here like the values are these fundamental human needs, and these are going to be expressed here, and so that has an intrinsic value in itself, and that's what we are trying to let emerge here. Really, I see the relationships emerging. That's from Satori. So that's like a value in itself, having these emerging co-interdependent relationships.
Yeah, I would like to pick up on this because what you just said, it gave me this kind of idea of thinking about this kind of basic needs. What happens if you're in a situation where we are not in? Meaning like we're kind of connecting here through our laptops or devices, through our really cool internet highways, while the kind of knowledge which should be available to persons that could really benefit from token economies mostly find themselves in more precarious situations. So how can this knowledge transfer happen with this kind of technology, but not for the privileged users of the technology? Which kind of interfaces
I
can we
think
come up
that would be like the policies and the actions that are in the arrow. So we'll be developing those referring to the values we're trying to merge here.
Yeah.
That would be like our tools, our bucket pool.
Yeah, I think there
And
could be
also,
really a value kind of or a form of developing something
Yes,
that
because if we know that those are values for ourselves and we're trying to put those in the world, it would be valuable for all the people that natively is attracted to this organically. So that's the dynamic relationship we're trying to make visible.
so
That's what I think.
that
That's my personal view.
and no, just to add to it, it's the same. Like we can start thinking with the hard questions, like how is this sustainable? How is this going to solve all the other problems that the world has? And if you look at the war, you're like, okay, what am I even doing here? So we need to, in a sense, free ourselves now from those concerns, but really look at the value and, in a sense, trust in that if the transdisciplinary knowledge that we are enabling to be accessible at first, even to those who have laptops and everything, it is not accessible. Okay, so number one, get that that adjacent possibility. We can deal, or we can enable that not to be cut, and then we will figure out actually that these value flow assumptions that we're having actually materialized, that we then can create those token models, and then we have actually created a value add in this space, and then the next adjacent possible. And to be honest, yes, there are so many problems, so serious problems, and they don't go away if you throw tokens or money at them. There's so much, hundreds of millions, billions of aid money goes around the world, and we still have 70% waste of everything. Like, people still don't have access to electricity. We don't have access to electricity that is sustainable, and like, we can turn in circles. Money has not solved that, hence tokens won't solve it either. But we have actually some value add potential here that we can collectively create, and that will improve, and maybe that will open up more possibility. So that's kind of the mindset we need to get into.
For me, just inverting kind of the thought process and all this kind of stuff I've been talking about, like the forking the mindset or mind flow and dancing and all this kind of stuff. For me, it's like, the problem, as simply as I could say, is that everybody started off on number one instead of starting off at zero, and they started off with a bad premise of logic and not sound Dell logic. And there's basic principles behind that as well, and that I want to introduce into this developing game that I have thinking about, and using NFTs in a different way. I think too, as we, for me, it's starting off with that beginner's mind. Okay, let's swipe the fucking thing clean. Okay, so what beginner's mind is about is like not having assumptions about stuff and just going for what's in this moment, what's emerging in these patterns. And I think if we start from ground zero, what we have right here is a lot of convergence of what we initially feel within us that we could start to build upon. And when I started looking at NFTs differently, is like, okay, this is about like a shared journey that we're going to be all doing together. But also, too, we could record it via these different little steps. And that's, for me, it's to like, as we progress with it within this structure and developing new ways of going about researching in token engineering or making collaborations with different projects and doing alignments of how we go about doing stuff, you soon realize, as if you keep on pushing this forward, is that, okay, that's what the group mind share mind mandala really is. It's like, this is how we got this far, and you give it to your friend who like, you can't explain everything you're doing to them. You're just like, well, just look at this. Like, just go on that site. Like, it just makes sense after a while. You'll just look at it. Like, here's my mandala NFT. Like, please engage with it. It's like, I used to give books to people, and I would say, hey, I don't care if I get this back, but I just really appreciate it if you read it. Like, that's all that matters to me. Like, And it's like the same thing with these mandalas, the same thing with the library, and same thing that we're going to start creating. It's like, we do it because this is what's meaningful to us. And by sharing our own shared values and the process of doing this, it becomes meaningful to not only to me, but to everybody who helps me in it, and everybody in the group that vibes with how I'm framing things, how I'm saying things, how I'm thinking about things, and that once we share our stuff like this, these postcards become the cards in the NFT game, and we keep on distilling them into like the best versions of them, so that like in 5 months from now, we won't even know who actually wrote the first like post-its of those cards. They're just like group thoughts that we share, and we're like, oh, this was helpful on our journey to this way. Like, oh, you might want to engage with this particular deck. It helped me on my first journey to figure out that I wanted to teach bots how to dance. So then I went into the bot class and I learned about working with bots and stuff like that. That's how I've been viewing and thinking about things recently.
Yeah, I've been thinking a bit about like how archive.org functions and the Wayback Machine, and I've been thinking about like this kind of thing that a lot of persons can publish material there, and then how to make that a decentralized form that if those servers go down, that the thing doesn't go down with it.
Exactly, and that too has multiple medias that you could put videos and when we start talking about hyper contextualization, yeah,
Hello?
I love archive.
Okay. So sorry. But so I have a job and that is kind of keeping us on track, especially what we don't want to do is go into implementation yet. You're free after the next 10-15 minutes to stay on, and we can jam about all these ideas and capture them. But I just want to keep you focused just 15 more minutes, not to go into the solution space, not think about tokens and other issues, but actually let's together move to the next. Now that we've captured some of the words for purpose, let's move to the values that you see accruing based on what people shared. Nick, would you like to open up?
Sure. I've noticed that, well, the stuff I list is just like common things from what energized people around the library. So getting to experience the transdisciplinary nature of work, like working with different types of people, like kind of like what Gina was saying about working with scientists and creatives at the same time and merging the art and
Yeah,
science
actually,
together.
that was like the original purpose of the library, experiencing transdisciplinary in every realm, like work, all these systems. Like that was the very, very original conception of this.
Love it. And then being able to gain insights and support, and therefore important problems will be solved. People seem motivated to solve big problems here and generate different, like innovative ideas. And innovating in sustainable regenerative systems, keyword organically and collaboratively, and growth in tandem with other people. So being able to experience, like, yeah, again, that organic and collaborative growth. I guess like experiencing with peers is nice. The receiving of knowledge, and then being able to share knowledge to bring others up. So I feel like the people who are wanting to contribute to the library, they want to help others. They're intrinsically motivated to help others succeed and make the world a better place. That's what I put.
That's a difficult one. So I don't know if the others are seeing that I'm taking notes a bit further up. So
I think
just
connection
for
is like the most primordial thing everyone is saying, and that's the first need of every human being. And I see connection in everything, like in values, in needs, in forms of collaboration. So I see like connection and in relationship. I see connection as our bigger first principal value in this.
Okay, yeah, that comes up a lot. That's true. Okay, who wants to continue? Andrea? Maybe?
You did, Andrea, if you're talking.
Hi. Yeah, me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that it's amazing that everyone did the connection. So when I was like looking at this and what else we could add to this when Nick and I were going onboarding is how we can almost connect each green square with other green squares. So we can find ways to kind of work together on these ideas because a lot of them are the same. When I was reading them, I was like, a lot of the answers are the exact same. So it's like, how can we connect further? And I know you said you don't want to go into like the planning of it, but if we're trying to create connections, that's the easiest way. It makes sense to me.
Exactly.
Okay, you're looking for this. I'm looking for this. Let's connect together. So I don't know if there's a spot on here that we could almost have, like where we could group, because right now we're spreading out all of our ideas among the initiatives, but if we group some of what motivates us and what, brings us energy together.
Exactly. Like this, you know how alignment can happen if, the leader says this is the way to go and this is the way to align and these are the rules to follow, then we're all aligned. Well, this is also a way. What you're doing here is a way to align just by exposing your mental models, what you value, what you can contribute, and then also listening to others, intently asking, and actually then taking some more time to make those connections and maybe even reaching out. And then next week we will have this workflow. Like during the week we can continue work on these value flows, and I'm happy to share how it is done more, or we can have another session to go deeper if people are interested. So that could be part of a little ritual, a bit of a toe tipping into token engineering process. But next week definitely is about workflows, meaning how do we actually get to work. And they're working in safe collective space that encourages others and supports growth. Can you, because I don't think we had the chance to speak, but can you share a bit where that comes from? Because that's exactly something that is resonating a lot currently.
Yeah, well, I think when Nick initially went over this with me, and I just thought, no one asks these questions. Like, we don't ask each other these questions. It's a great opportunity to really reflect, first on myself, but then, it's like, how will other people react if you ask questions? And just based on this call, so there's just so much joy and enthusiasm, and I feel it through the call. Like, we're excited about the possibilities, and even though there are some things that some people are saying I don't understand, I'm Googling what these words are, and I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm still excited rather than checking out. And I think that are the kind of spaces that I would like to be a part of, and to feel safe in those spaces, to ask those questions and to learn from others. And obviously, there's an extreme wealth of knowledge here that people seem to be very open to share, and I'm all for it. And if there's anything that I can share and that I can help provide for others as well, I would like that very much so. So that's kind of why I wrote that down. That's what I felt when I was reading everybody's comments, and what I personally felt when I was doing this exercise, that I just felt very safe. And, I wouldn't maybe typically share all of the things that energize me, but also all the things that take energy from me. It can be quite vulnerable to be like, oh, this stuff, I'm not a big fan of doing some of these. So I thought that was important to share those as well.
I wonder if it would be good
Thank
to
you.
spend time to kind of like hold space and in a way kind of listen to other people by looking at what energized them, looking at what they put here and then what they shared here. And then so that next week we can have better ideas on how to do this. It's kind of like in that book that you lent me, Andrea, The Power of Attachment. It's about holding space for other people's perspective without just focusing on on talking back at someone. You're actually listening. So our way of listening will be to look at what energizes and what drains other people in Omega, and then we can ideate on this next week.
Cool.
Very cool.
Just, I want to say two things which is kind of irrelevant to this. I would like to ask Shebnem. So, Shebnem, do you have any connection with Trent from Ocean Protocol?
Trent?
Yeah.
Trent McConaughey?
But what type of
Yeah.
connection? Like
Like,
they're my godfathers.
no, I mean,
Meaning baptized the
maybe
token.
we could think to bring him as like one of the creators of the library, because he's one of the
Yeah.
OG token engineers. He flipped the term itself. So
Exactly. So what I did is I reached out to Trent Zargam as well as Sherman and Simon, because the latter two are, writers
yeah.
and artists. And Trent, but the Sherman is also interested. I haven't heard back from Simon. Trent and Zargam said they will curate.
Oh, perfect.
And I don't think it's an issue of maybe it's an issue of time. Maybe it's really like, oh, where do we start? So one aspect I really want us to figure out is also how do we make this experience for the curators, meaningful.
Yeah.
But again, that's an implementation aspect.
Yeah, asynchronously, I can work on it like next week, but I know it's not urgent yet. But I can work on it asynchronously, and we'll share when the time comes, so we can move faster. One thing that's super cool that we have Trent, and the other thing, as you said, Curve Labs maybe will be interested to do a curation. Jem is like very interesting guy, writing these cool stuffs. Maybe I can bring him as well, if you guys are down to.
Did you have a chance to look at the curation template?
Yes, I looked at it.
Okay, so we have these little rules that we're trying to get feedback on. As in, like, we made these little rules, but maybe they're not helping, but maybe they are. And why those rules are, at least start with 2 people curating, just to show this transdisciplinarity and so on. And maybe it's also a way for them to bond over, over topics, etc. And for the OG seed creations and so on, like if you can follow up with them, if you can help them, also asking like what is it that we could do differently for them to be able to share better, faster, we can do that. So that would be perfect, Max. Please.
Yeah, so let's say I will work on it until next week, talk with Curve Labs team, and like take a look at the template, and if I can contribute to it, I will try my best.
I wonder
Thanks
if
a
we could
lot.
do
So,
oh, sorry.
I have a question. Do the curators have total freedom over the content that they pick, over the book, the research paper? I mean, I would assume they would, but are there any? Do we want to help them maybe limit the scope a little bit? Like
That's the thing. Like, I don't want to spread it too far. Just let's figure out from the ones that reach out, what is it that it's holding them back? Would they like to have a limit of 3, and that would get them started? Let's do that. This type of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've seen that sometimes stops people that I've offered. It's like where do they? It's like they don't know where to begin. Like
okay, yeah. So let's try different things, and with the people that we reach out, let's say, okay, start with 3. Like, let's try different things and come back with the feedback. And also do it yourself with people you want to create with, and then figure out, okay, if I have this constraint of limits, I work better. That's an insight. Let's get those insights.
Okay.
And now I have to gain some more time for, we're almost finishing, wrapping up for this value flow session. If that's okay, and then we can continue with the implementation. I have some more time, but maybe some people need to go. So that's why I want to value flows. So values. So Steph, you added a few.
Can I just have a comment about Manu's? So instead, I guess if people would be able to curate, other people would be able to review in a decentralized way, right? And we'll be able to communicate and comment on the content that is being there and offer suggestions, so that it won't be there in a monolithic way, so that it will be able to be updated, right? So if that's the case and we find a good system to actually do this, then I don't think it would be an issue.
Let's get the first curations, and if we don't get them, figure out why. And we can do this distributedly and exchange any insights and so on. But before we don't have the curations, like content contributors, then going into designing without getting, or let me put it that way, we reached out, people said yes. Now we need to figure out how they actually can contribute. And if they don't contribute, what is preventing them? And we do that by asking them. And then we get insights. And from those insights, we can start iterating on design and all those aspects. Number 1. Number 2, we will have them also as early alpha testers, if you will, like if you have any design ideas and so on. Once they started contributing, having skin in the game, right? Then this will flow. But before we have content, before we have, I'm very going into implementation before we have any users. So that's now values. Can we try and get at least the ones that have put I see Dev, you added some values, and well, that's it actually.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it already. Like how to make common sense, because often like the bifurcation is between public-private or private-public partnerships. So the commons as a discourse is this kind of interstice. So what is the making of common sense? It's not kind of a given. So yeah, that's something that I think is quite important. If I think about like a new field, rethinking what belongs to property, like what's a commons, what is a private property. So this kind of language or this kind of common space that needs to exist in this token economics engineering. So yeah, that's a bit out of the research of the commons, what it is a commons or what it could be. And then distributed knowledge. So yeah, that's again this kind of same question of what they're doing with like copying Wikipedia when a certain country is kind of like blocking it. So all these kind of questions of having it censorship resistant. And then of course also peer reviewed. So to always have this kind of interaction person to person. Is this person spamming? Is it relevant to the kind of work that is the Consilience library? And then a decentralized database. So to have it as a kind of mycelium mushroom kind of thing that pops up everywhere, so that it doesn't matter where it's based, but that it's very difficult to shut it down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
These are
second
technical
that.
values. Nice. Okay. Any additions? Anything anyone wants to add as value? Something that just came up and needs to.
Yeah, not exactly in terms of values, but I was looking here at the purpose one that we did all together, and I was thinking that if it wouldn't be like a good idea, because I felt like it was a really nice exercise for everyone to kind of like co-create this purpose for the token engineering library. So I was thinking if it wouldn't be a good idea to do the same thing with like the mission and the vision of the library. To have like a more clear and kind of uniform idea of where is this going and what's the mission of it behind it, and that we can all create together. I don't know.
I think that's like a new index or metric to be able to value this kind of value flows which are emerging in these spaces. So it will be like creating new metrics and vocabulary with this curation, so we can share it with the wider. It's a value in itself, like being able to value this kind of intangibles. And that's the
Exactly. Yeah. So we are the starting group, right? Or we're the starters, but the openness aspect or this open system design that we're attempting here actually values any newcomer's co-visioning effort. So maybe this will be something that we collectively do every couple of months. Maybe it will be a feature of the library itself to look at itself and redesign its value flows as a learning experience. So things like this. And that's why I know, and I think that's not something that we're leaving out or ignoring. Maybe we are. Maybe that's my
I'm not
my
saying like
blind spot.
that should stay that it should stay like one way forever, you know. But like I think it just it's really helpful for a group of people to have like a collective goal or collective guide that we can all follow, right? So we don't have like for example, if you have a newcomer and they ask you what is this Consilience library about, well, we have this in mind and this is what we're trying to do, this is why. And I'm not saying that couldn't change, right? I think that that's where the innovation could come in, like that you have a transforming and changing mission, vision, and purpose continuously, right? But I think, I don't know, like to begin with and to have a better understanding of everything, I think it would be worth to consider, I think.
Totally with you. All I'm asking is to give it a chance that maybe purpose will be sufficient to allow for that play around. What we can come up with is maybe in addition principles. And in the template, for example, maybe some principles are there. We can have also in the chat exchange on these topics. I really want to see, like we're just used to vision, mission. We're used to do things one way, and here it's just doing a little bit different. And I also share the background info to it and so on and so forth, where it comes from. It's called Chaotic Organizations. and it's just an invitation to give it a try. Literally, if people want to come up with a vision, and I think we need that for coming up with visuals and everything, not holding you back or anything. But what I wanted to say is, for the value flows, this is sufficient. We don't need to try and find more. Like this is already quite sufficient.
I'm
I just
completely
wanted to
open. Yeah.
Cool.
In a sense, absolutely. I'm referring more like to new people that don't really have this kind of understanding or this philosophical background. Like what you're saying, like these are more like traditional ideas, but that like the majority of people, they know about that, So I think that could help to explain to others what this is about. But like personally, like I'm open to trying new things. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I'm here.
Cool. And what we could also do is like really explain how did we get here? Like why do we ask for purpose and values? And also, for example, we have not yet figured out, we say transdisciplinarity and novelty, but I would ask us to go a bit deeper and come up with what is the value of novelty. Novelty could be an experience, for example, and so on. We are almost there. It's just wordsmithing, and you can use here. And what is the value of transdisciplinarity? For example, the links we see already, like these wicked problems, the leftover problems of the hyper-efficient capitalism and global markets. Maybe those can be solved through these insights and supports in an environment that fosters novelty, or that values novelty, or that actually is designed for transdisciplinary exchange. And how novelty and getting new impulses actually can create aha moments and so on. So I do definitely see and also invite you just to look at it a bit more. What is the value of connection? These are things that we feel, and if we can come up with words or visuals. Yes, go ahead, Satori.
Can I tackle why I think novelty is important? Meaningful novelty, I think, is a catalyst for culture. Every step of the way, when you view how culture actually develops, it's an artist using a medium in a novel, meaningful way. William S. Burroughs used some techniques from a surrealist about cutting up, and he used it in a new context. He used it in film. And the first time he did cut up with Willem Geisen, it was out of context that everybody in the theater, like 50% of them, threw up because they couldn't handle it. And they went too far with it, but they were experimenting with novelty in a different medium to see what they could do with that. And that kicked off remix culture. We're still in this cut up method.
Exactly.
And every step of the way, all this development in culture and art happens when people use different mediums in a novel, meaningful way.
Can I say something? I wouldn't look at novelty this way, because it has this assumption that we are living in a kind of linear way, that the next step brings something. But creativity, for sure, by definition, is the use of something out of a context into another context. And it doesn't mean that it's novelty. And what I would suggest that we can explore is that novelty is composed by different aspects. And definitely in novelty, you have, for example, a part of history. You can use something from that is an ancestral tradition, and you're going to use it in a different way. It's always connected to different things. That's what I would like to say. That it's not one concept that is unique. It's composed.
And that is multidisciplinary as well, so it connects very well with. It's a novelty, but you say it's like infringing in many realms. So you have the Dadaists, which came with philosophy and breaking up new ground. So it's connected like the philosophy with literature, with motion. So it's like not linear, but it's interconnected because they were able to mix up a lot of meanings and vocabulary, and they came up with something that is not linearly new, but is like very structurally a novelty in the realm. So that's also in relationship to other artists or other disciplines. So I see itself like a super novelty within a realm. So be it in literature, art, dance, anything. It's like the relationship with other relationships, like in a system thinking as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, please stop.
Yeah, like it makes me think of this quote by Hegel, which is, I cannot find the literal quote, but basically what it says is, when the old reacts to the new, that's where the new actually comes to exist. For example, I think it's the example between modern and pre-modern. It's not that suddenly there is modernity, it's just a moment that pre-modern, like monarchy, reacts to like modernity. At that moment, modernity becomes the new. It's this kind of retroactive movement, so it's more a flow than a stock. So the novelty cannot be seen as a thing, it's always a relational quality which becomes new the moment the old responds to it.
Yeah.
Yes, and if we have our metrics right and our new vocabulary, we will even be imagining 2060 this library is big enough to have all these creations, and we can just analyze those, and we can say, look, with this neural framework, oh my god, this is the pain point, and in this moment in time they realized that tokens could not solve everything but could solve this specific software explanation. And it was that
I love it. This is so cool.
I want to share like something that like a synchronicity that happened to me personally when I was talking about Blake, right? And I go and I read this article about Blake, and it's talking about his songs of experience, and that he created the artwork for it. He also painted each one of it. So like everyone who had a copy of that songs of experience that he made were unique. Each one was different. It had a standard design, but he painted it so the colors were different. And I was just like, damn, fool, that guy was doing the NFTs legit. Like that's what he was doing. Like way back then. And like just going back to like retrieving different stuff, like I want to go back to the Getty because I see these stained glass windows, and I just look at them, and you know they were doing holograms. Like you look at the stained glass windows up close, and it's a hologram. I think they're like stacking those layers, like you know what I mean. Like even now we don't know how to do it to that extent. And just different things like that to retrieve what has happened before is part of this lineage, I think, which we could bring to the library.
Super cool. I'm just noting the vision also of Letty. So yeah, again, what I wanted us to constrain ourselves a little bit to come up with these few little bubbles that we can always come back to. And if you take some more time to look over it, and let's see if we are already hearing, reading principles that are important to us, and also, you know, to the purpose of the Consilience library. Then also feel free to note those. But the goal is to have these like signposts, not even like a few things that we can always come back to. and know like this was 23rd of March in 2022, and we discussed this was our common vision that we had formed that night or day. We can come back to it and so on, and have that as our sync point. But having that, or a little anchor, if you will, having that, feel free to run wild. One thing that came up with all of the exchanges that you had, and I'm more like a commentator now, seeing that that there are so many possibilities of creating novel experiences. Not just how people relate, but using different media and so on. These are all possibilities, especially if we have, if we use really blockchain as an archival system, meaning the information is on IPFS and accessible anywhere, anytime, then this thing can also have different user interfaces, different user experiences developed. And that's the kind of interesting, in my view, the most interesting new way of developing experiences. Like, we don't have to come up with, this is the way that this library needs to be experienced. Imagine all of a sudden people join in half a year, or somehow we meet somewhere, and a group of 3D artists actually have a think about it, and they all of a sudden create an entire different interface that none of us was thinking. So I think these are the areas that we can keep open. But then also, as Andrea mentioned, also focus on how can we actually focus or overlap our collective actions, so we can help each other develop, progress, achieve, learn in implementing this library, and then also help us see if there's something we miss, and how can we how can we add that need, how can we advertise that need in this network and so on, to have people join who might be filling needs that we see that can be closed with, or that can be met with their contributions and so on. So next week, if you're game, we try this workflow. And to be honest, I have never done something like a workflow design. And question anyone of you have? Else, I will definitely ask Jeremy whether he has some ideas. Then there is some information here already, like people saying, I want to contribute, and this is my number, my energy flow frequency. Maybe like those of you who are interested in figuring out this new ways of working, or regenerative workflows, can go in and see like how could collaboration happen in the space. We had started also uncovering these self stocks, as Nick says, and stocks of collaboration, like how energy flows between collaborators, and also but what type of external energy, meaning funds and so on, is needed for a collaboration. So these are the things that I would ask us to get into, those of you who are interested in, and have a look again in to our mirror board that had captured the ideas of dynamic energy budget, enlivening self, enlivening relationships, hence enlivening systems. So there lies there are some insights, new insights covered, I believe, that should flow into our next session, the workflow design. Okay.
Just so sorry, we've been like 30 minutes almost late, but I just want to ask one question. Should I upload a participatory research proposal anytime soon?
No. There we really need to, as I mentioned, redesign, and with that I mean like all of this work, groundwork that we said we could be doing, the research, some researches, foundational research that can go into call for participation for those topics, and that shall go into actual little projects of pulling up these focus groups, getting token engineers together, having an open participatory sessions on those topics, actual analysis of those topics, and so on. We should really have that defined, because I also found actually a lot of interesting people doing blockchain ethics research. So I was thinking we need to open it up way more. Like, it's not enough that we say we do it within Omega.
Yeah, gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah. Let's let's bite
like
the
we can
bullet.
prepare the groundwork and so on, and that should be part of working group proposal. But then those sessions, like, hey, we're doing another round of TE ethics participatory research, that would be like a call for participation, including the budget and everything needed to get those going.
Okay, thank you. I will work on it. Yes. And by the way, just last thing. Sorry, I've been kind of slow in my work because I've been dealing with this panic attack thing. But I'm better now, fully on work. I will deliver more work. So just.
How are you really doing?
I'm fine.
That
Like this.
doesn't sound.
This panic attack thing has been with me for like 3-4 years. So I'm getting used to it. But every year, for some months, it's like blown up and like slowing me down, but it's not like super bad. So
thank you for sharing. And also it is totally okay when you say, hey, can you take this over, and for example, I could just ask you in chat, and I can take on this documentation, for example. So let's discuss, let's chat, and don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
I had a little technical question.
Yeah.
Just a technical thing, because like I just went ahead with building this mock-up of this site for just having an idea of like how it looks like when it's not on Notion. But then to where do I send like all the things? Because I made like a little email account or some login infos. Like, is there a place where I can just share this that others can also access it? Because I don't want to throw it in like the group chat, because maybe somebody like posts weird thing on it or something. Is there like a little place that admins or persons can just access it and work on it if they want to use it? Because it's just kind of a thing that I want to contribute it to the Omega group.
So what we should definitely do is, how do we exchange credentials? Like, that is more the process stuff. For now, if you can keep it on and maybe share it with someone else, who or two others, who definitely have it for, yeah.
Yeah, like who do I send this? Because that's where I was a bit in doubt because I didn't feel like posting it on the group because it's like password info and stuff. So that's. Shall I just send it to you in a little message and then you can decide like to who do you send?
No, actually, like the Consilience library, maybe if you can hold on till next week, that we figure out like who are the leads or who want to take on that responsibility, and sharing things between 3 people should always work. Like if 2 somehow vanish, there is still one saying, "Hey, I need to share this with 2 others." So that could be a thing, but I would like to look into actual management of those credentials and so on. And that's part of the workflow documentation that we're gonna have. Okay. Another thing, and question also to Nick, can we use the Consilience library, this board, to actually map the things, the artifacts, if you will, that have been already created, so that people see where they could continue or start working?
Yes, absolutely. That would probably make it easier for newcomers as well to just have the one file to refer to. Yeah, I hope eventually we can make it so that even if all of us were no longer in Omega and someone else were carrying on, this file will help them continue. So yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, super cool. So Steph and everyone who has been working on Consilience library, doing things, creating visuals and so on and so forth, you can either create a folder and map that folder, put that folder, the link, just drop it around the Consilience library box. I think it should have your name on it somehow, so people know who to contact if they are interested in picking it up or helping with that concrete line of work. And also, again, that will help for the next session. Okay.
What did you mean with box? I didn't understand that.
So we are using this map like our dashboard, imagine. And Consilience library bubble box, how do you call it? The box that says Consilience library. Around there, you can share the collection of the artifacts, the work, anything that you have already created for the library. I think right now only the Notion link is in there, so you could add.
On the Figma map, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
This is becoming the central map because before there was Miro, and I've been trying to put everything on this website, but then I was like, I don't know where to start. So now we're using really the map that we were working on this week with Nick, and that's kind of the central database. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like the dashboard, the cockpit, the archipelago map, whatever we want to call it. And next week we would continue and figure out the workflows as well. And for that, would be great to have the things that have been already created in there as well. And anyone who is into figuring out these new ways of working, workflows, who has resonated with dynamic energy budget, or things could be resonating, we'll share all the links again and can asynchronously get creative there. Thank you, everyone, for taking half hour more, but I think that's really, really useful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Merci.
Thank
you. See you soon. Merci à tout à l'heure.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.